I'm going to give an overview now of the professional compression tool that's used in conjunction with compression F connectors and compression BNC connectors. Okay, so I might just give an overview of the actual connectors first, and I'll move on to the tool then. So if you see here the compression F connectors here, you can see the end profile, the side, and the front profile on these. But basically, when these are compressed, this black part pushes down into the metal housing and tightens on the cable, and this is what gives the compression an extremely good fit. So this would be used in conjunction with the F compression, would be used in conjunction with RG6 cable, and is used primarily in the television industry. And the compression BNC connectors work exactly on the same principle. In this case, the actual connector is made up of two parts. We have a central pin that goes onto the core wire, and we have the BNC connection here as well. Okay. And this is used primarily with RG59 cable in the CCTV industry, although it can actually be used with RG6 as well. So we'll move on to the tool itself there. So you can see the overall shape of the tool here. It comes with a range of 3 heads, okay? And I'm just going to give a quick overview of the 3 heads because we have the line here in front of us. So, just to show, I'll just go through the heads quickly first. So this head here is used in conjunction with compression BNC connectors. And the idea of this is it looks flat, but if you focus in on it quite tightly here, you'll see that the central ring is a little bit smaller, and it means that if we compress on a BNC, it pushes on the inside of the BNC, and that's the part we want to compress, and the outside housing is not compressed, and that's obviously vital because it must fit in with other parts, and it won't work if it's deformed. We have this connection here. This is the standard connection. It comes with the actual tool itself, and this is used with compression BNC or compression F connectors. And finally, we have the final part here that will be used with something like a compression Phono connector. We don't actually sell those currently, but it would work with those. So I'm just going to hold up the tool here and give a further overview. So, the F compression part. That tool is actually pre-fitted here, and it's coming on the threaded bar here. So what we can actually do is we can move up and down this threaded bar depending on the type of connector that we're using, okay? In terms of the overall mechanism here, when we're locking in a tool and we're compressing, we can see that it moves up, and at the very end the ratchet action kicks in, and a lot of force comes on, and only when it's gone all the way fully compressed can it actually release. Okay, so if we get to a point we can't pull back on it, we must go all the way and then pull back. In terms of, there's a cutter on it for cutting cable, so you can just see this here. That's quite effective as well. And in terms of the different heads, when they're not in use, they're actually stored in here. So you can see one head here, and the other head would actually be screwed in here, right? In terms of the cable itself, there's an actual locking mechanism for the cable. So what will happen is, if we have the cable open here, we'd slot in the cable, and when we push the cable in, it actually locks in those heads and holds the cable in. And if we're pulling the cable out, it'll automatically release and get ready for the next connector to go in. So I have this pre-set up all ready to go for an RG50 or for an F compression on an RG6 cable. So you're going to start off and do that one, and then I'll give an overview of how we do it with a BNC compression cable. Okay. So what we have here is the RG6. So you just see there, and I have a compression connector put on this end. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rotate it around. I'm just going to pick up a compression F connector, and all I do is I simply slide it on like this. And we slide it all the way through. This, just to show the cable briefly, this cable has been pre-paired. We have the core wire here, the dielectric, and then we have the outer sheeting here, okay? So roughly in those proportions. And we just push it all the way through till we have a good firm thing. So at this point here, if I wanted, I could simply pull back off this compression F because it's not compressed in, but it is fitted in a point where it would be ready for a compression. So what I'm going to do here is we're just going to open the jaws of this, and what I'll do is I'm just going to slide this in here, and I'm going to slide this F connector in here like this, and when we press on the back here, watch the actual thing here for locking the cable locks in. So what we'll start off doing then is we're just going to start compressing here. So we're moving to the top here, and we can see that this plastic element here, there's still a space here, so it hasn't been compressed yet. But as we push it down, we can see that it becomes more and more compressed, and finally it's compressed all the way on. Now, If we overdid this, what we'd have is that the plastic here would actually be deformed, and we don't want that to happen either, okay? So having compressed it all the way, if we release the handles, it comes out, and we can just pull this out here now. And this is our compression F connector put on. And if I go to pull this apart, you know, with my hands here, I can't pull it. It's after giving an extremely good connection on it. So it's highly effective for use with this. So if we come along then and we wanted to use a BNC connector, we'd have to just simply use a different tool head here. But rather than actually having to come along, we'll say, and have a completely different tool, what it's very cleverly done is it's realised that the overall mechanism for compressing is very much the same. So what we do is we'd simply change out this. So what I do here is I'd simply hold this head here and I just rotate here and take off this element here. And what I do want to do is I want to move and put this particular one that I showed earlier. So now just hold it, maybe you can focus on it, for doing the compression of the BNC connectors themselves. Okay, so what we have here is we have a second tool, just to make this video as short as possible, that we've prepared, and we have the proper head in position. Now what I found is if you're changing from using a compression F to a compression BNC, the actual the tools are quite different in their length, but so is the actual standoff here between the two different options here. So it means that you can actually change from one to the other and go with almost exactly the same settings as you had before. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to pick up a length of RG59, which once again I've pared down to prepare for this part of it, and we'll just hold this up against. So you want to pair it and have it in roughly the same proportions as the cable itself, because this will be inserting into the center, okay? So the very first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to come along, I'm just going to get this pin here and I'm going to slide it on. And what you want to do when you're sliding on this pin is that roughly the length of the copper in the center wants to be the length of the wide part of the pin here itself. Now if I wanted it, I could get a pliers here and just quickly crimp this in. But normally it's not necessary to do so. And what I'm going to do here now is I'm simply going to get this compression BNC and I'm going to insert it in here. So if you just give me a moment here. So we look at the top here. We can see now we have a pin and it's lining up beautifully with the top of the BNC connection here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to turn this at side angle again. I'm going to line it up and I'm just going to push the cable to the back, and you can see the cable's actually being locked in. And we'll push it to the very top here, and we get to the very top, we can crimp it all the way in, and the very final part, the ratcheting action, and once we've done that, release it. And we can see perfectly formed BNC, and once again it's extremely tight on the cable. It's extremely tight. Now if we're not certain on what distance to set it, it's best to sort of under crimp it, and then we can just adjust it, make it a little bit tighter and push it in, because if we over crimp and over compress this plastic part, more or less the connector then might give it exactly the connection we want. So there's a little bit of fine adjustment on it to get it exactly as we want. But that's it, an overview of the professional compression tool for use with compression Fs and also compression BNCs.